Hi, everyone. So if you've been watching my last lives, I've been talking a lot about Black Lives Matter, white supremacy, bigotry, sexism. So this video is somewhat related to those topics, but I'm going a little bit away from that main focus and talking about uh, certain toxic, right, like harmful behaviors that we see online, and what some of these people that do these harmful behaviors are often called. So, like slang words for these. So, um, I kind of call them internet bullies uh, for their way of communicating online in this toxic way, right? Harmful way. Um, And when we hear the term internet bully, we usually hear it when we're talking about teenagers or children being bullies to their classmates, right? And not just in the classroom, but online, right? So in the classroom, they're bullies, online, internet bullies, or online bullies. But today I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not going to focus on school bullies. The type of people we're talking about today can be teenagers, but are often adults. Adults who should be more mature and know better. So we don't often hear adults called bullies, probably because their victims, right, the people they are bullying, are better able to defend themselves than children, right? Adults are usually more confident, and if someone tries to bully them, it doesn't affect them as much. But I think you're still a bully, even if you're not successful at your bullying. So some of the vocabulary words we're going to go over today. Let me make sure I can see this in the video. So yeah, we have trolls and the phrase, "don't feed the trolls." We have a devil's advocate, or plural, devil's advocates. And a phrase we hear with this often is playing devil's advocate. And then we have this last one, incel for singular, incels for plural, which stands for involuntary celibates. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm also going to talk about the word irony and how that relates to incels later in the lesson. And as always, if you have any questions or comments while the live is going, please leave them. And then after, if you're watching the playback, feel free to ask questions as well. So first up, internet trolls, also just called trolls. So a troll was originally a figure, right, a character from old folklore, so folk stories from Norway and other countries in that area. So trolls were creatures that lived in caves or under bridges and were often described as ugly or mean. Now, there's also kind of right now, or there has been for a while, these kind of cute trolls that are like troll dolls in this like animated movie where there's like little trolls. I don't know. I've never seen the movie. Did they sing? Maybe they sing. Um, so we have these kinds of like happy, cute trolls that we see in kids' movies and kids' toys, and then this sort of mean version of a troll. So that's the origin of this term, troll. Now, when we say an internet troll, or internet, we can pronounce the T or not. So internet troll is a person who does things to purposefully make people upset or angry online. So meaning they say things for the purpose of making someone upset or angry. And they often do this anonymously, right? Anonymously, meaning you don't know who they are. They might have a fake name or some sort of username. They don't show their face, usually, not always. So troll is the noun, right? The person, we can call them a troll. And the verb for what they're doing when they behave like this is called trolling. So people go on the internet and they go trolling, trying to find people to make angry. So, for whatever reason, some people find trolling to be fun. The person doing it, usually not the person receiving this behavior. And they don't care what damage it causes or who it hurts, right? So, this term is usually used for online interactions because really, usually trolls are not brave enough to behave like this in person. Because they can hide behind a fake name on the internet, they feel braver or more brave. They feel emboldened to behave in these really nasty ways, right? Mean, nasty, not nice, not kind. So there is a difference between someone who is genuinely being hurtful and rude because they truly believe the hurtful things they're saying. For example, in many of our past videos, we talked about bigots, right, who can be racist or sexist or homophobic. If they really believe these things that they're saying, we don't really call that trolling. That's just someone being a bigot. When someone is saying things just to make people upset, whether they believe them or not, they don't really care. They're just doing it to bother people. So many people are starting to recognize, starting to notice or see when someone really believes what they're saying versus if they are just trolling. And so oftentimes, if someone is trolling, and they're on a thread or commenting on a post on Facebook or Twitter, wherever, someone may call it out, right? So bring attention to it and say, don't feed the troll. Okay. Or they might just post a funny meme or picture or animated GIF of a troll. There's one of this train passing by, and there's all these troll dolls hanging out the window to let everybody know this is a troll. Don't get angry. Don't bother to talk to them. Don't bother to argue with them. They're just trolling. And so when we say don't feed the troll, this means don't give this person attention. So in this metaphor of sorts, feeding a troll means you're giving them food, but their food is not really food. It's attention, energy, your time, which fuels them and they feeds them, and they feel powerful by being able to make you angry. So if you don't get upset, you don't give them the power, and then it's no fun for them. So again, with a troll, they may believe what they're saying. They may really think these mean things, or they may not, and they're just saying it to make you angry, but it's not the point. The point for them is to feel powerful by having the ability to make you upset. Okay, so that is an internet troll. Let's move on to our next word, devil's advocate, or in the plural, devil's advocates. Okay? So devil's advocate is a different thing, but it's not necessarily unrelated. We'll talk a little more about that later. This word is used not only online, but in real life, because people who behave like this usually are not anonymous. They're not hiding who they are. They think they're very smart and they're proud of their intelligence. So usually they are interacting with their real name as a real person online or in real life, in person. Okay, so you might know the devil is a biblical creature, meaning from the Bible. Other names for this for the devil is Satan, Lucifer. There's lots of names. So that's what devil is, right? Advocate. An advocate is a person fighting on behalf of someone else or for a cause or a belief, right? So we usually see this in a positive version, right? For example, a victim's rights advocate, meaning you're fighting for people that have been hurt to protect them. But, okay, so let me back up for a second. Let's see, back to my notes. So advocate is the person when it's used as a noun. When it's used as a verb, the spelling is the same, but it has a different pronunciation, advocate. So a devil's advocate advocates for the devil's point of view. So literally, if we were to take a literal meaning of this, means they're arguing for the devil's thoughts or point of view. Now, we don't use this literally like this, but it gives you an idea of what the meaning is here, right? So we often hear this with the phrase playing devil's advocate. So someone who is playing devil's advocate comes into an argument or talk or debate and wants to express the side of the unpopular opinion that most of the group will disagree with. And a lot of times it's offensive. Not always, but a lot of times. So to use a very basic offensive example, a group of people is talking about the history of slavery in America. And someone comes into the conversation and says, well, if I could just play devil's advocate here for just a second and talk about some of the benefits of slavery. No. How about you don't do that? Right? So with this example, it's really obvious, like, slavery is bad. There's no benefits to slavery. We don't need to have that discussion. So oftentimes when someone brings in the point of view and coming in as a devil's advocate, they're bringing a point of view that doesn't need to be expressed. We don't need the devil's point of view. We have enough nastiness in the world. So oftentimes, as with this example, the person making this sort of argument will not be affected by the situation either way. So for example, a white man talking about slavery or violence against women can come in and play devil's advocate and it doesn't bother him because it's never going to affect him. So there's a certain amount of ego involved oftentimes with someone playing devil's advocate. There's a certain amount of, they think they can think more clearly about the topic because they think that they are impartial. They think that they are neutral, but they are not. They are influenced by their own biases. So with that said, this term is not always used in such dramatic ways with such controversial topics. It can be used in normal conversation. It can be used as a joke, right? Maybe you're fighting over a movie and someone wants to pick like the worst movie. Like, if I could play devil's advocate, how about we see this movie? Right? That's possible. So it's not always something so terrible, but a lot of times it is. And for that, I say the devil has enough advocates. How about we talk about things that are important and positive? All right. So before we get to our next term, which is this last one, and this is the most depressing one, the most heavy one. So before we get to our next word, incel, I want to talk about irony. Irony. I didn't spell that one out. I realized the pronunciation of this is really weird. So I-R-O-N-Y, irony. Okay. So, like many words that I've been going over in my live videos, the term irony is often misused even by native English speakers. You may or may not know there's this a song from the 90s by Alanis Morissette called Ironic, right? Isn't it ironic, don't you think? Well, people make fun of this song. They've been making fun of this song for years because her lyrics, most of them don't actually give examples of irony, what irony actually means. So for example, one lyric is, "It's like rain on your wedding day." Well, that isn't ironic. It's just unfortunate, I guess. It's fine. I still love the song. Anyway, so irony is the noun, right? It's the thing. And then ironic is the adjective describing the thing. So as far as pure definitions go, the Merriam-Webster's Learner's Dictionary defines irony as, first definition is the use of words that mean the opposite of what you really think in order to be funny. So, for example, if I were to say, wow, I really like internet trolls. I'm being ironic, right? I don't really like internet trolls. We use this term a lot for wearing things that we think are funny. So, for example, if someone thinks a Hawaiian shirt is actually really funny or really ugly, but they wear it to be funny, they might say, I'm being ironic. So that's like kind of a specific cultural thing that's a little harder to explain. Let's go on to the second definition, which is more what I'm using the word for in this case. So the second definition is a situation that is strange or funny because things happen in a way that seem to be the opposite, right? The opposite of what you expect. Okay, so something that is strange or funny because things happen in a way that is opposite of what you expected. And we'll talk about how that ties in, right? How that relates later. If you study irony in a literary context, meaning when you're reading books, writing, right, when you learn about it in literature classes, there are different types of irony, but we're not going to talk about those today. So now let's talk about this word, incels, okay? And why this group of men using this word incels is actually quite ironic. So incel is a shortening of the words involuntary celibate, right? Incel with a singular, I'm going to erase this S here. So involuntary, celibate. So involuntary means it's not your choice, right? Voluntary means you're choosing to do something. Involuntary means it's not your choice. Celibate, when you are celibate, you are not having sex. So certain religious leaders might be celibate by choice. So they are voluntarily celibate. This group of people is involuntary or involuntarily celibate. So in a very basic sense, this term means someone who isn't having sex but wants to be, and they feel they have no control over their situation. Now, it has moved to a meaning beyond that, but we will talk about that in a moment. So originally, the term was coined or invented by a Canadian woman named Alana, who created a website called Alana's Involuntary Celibate Project. So her goal was to create an accepting, inclusive environment, meaning they welcomed everyone, they wanted to be kind to each other, to talk about the problems of being lonely, people that were having trouble finding love. Eventually, she moved on from this idea, and somebody else took over the website. The website does not exist anymore, but the term incel has now taken on a life of its own. A life of its own is a phrase that means it grew kind of wild and far from her original intention. Okay? So, now we come to why incel is in this lesson when talking about online bullying or toxic behavior, like poor behavior online. These days, incels, they were on forums like Reddit and 4chan. I think that Reddit keeps shutting the forums down for their hate speech, but they start to pop up in other places. People make websites that are hosted outside of the US. And the thing about incels now is that they are almost exclusively men who hate women. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I'm not being dramatic. They really hate women. And so this is the irony, right? This is the strange thing that you wouldn't expect, that this term, incel, was created by a woman to help other people cope with their loneliness and be kind to each other. And now it's being used by men to spread the hatred against women, to spread hatred against women. So that's the irony. It was created by a woman, but now these men took over this term and use it to hate on women. Okay. So these incels, they get together in groups. Like I said, they have forums, and then those get shut down because they are full of hate speech. And then they have websites, and those get shut down because they are full of hate speech. But they keep making new ones, and they keep finding each other on the internet. And they have all kinds. They have a whole vocabulary of their own, full of derogatory words, right? Meaning insulting, hateful words against women and the men who are able to be with women. So the things they talk about, the words they used, are completely sexist and really, in my opinion, evil. They talk in really terrible ways about women. So I'm not going to go too far into their vocabulary, but I think there's certain words that maybe you should know, because then if you see someone using those words, you might recognize that they are an incel. So the two most common ones we see from these that are not absolutely disgusting, because I'm not going to teach these disgusting words. These are disgusting in their own ways, but I digress. So they have a name for women that they think are very attractive, but also shallow and have a lot of sex and would never date them. They call these women Stacy, which is a woman's name, but they use it to apply to all women that they think are like this. And so in the plural, they'll call them Stacys. And so they will say terrible things about Stacys all the time. Stacys. Then the men who are attractive and charming and can get the Stacys, they call Chad. So plural would be Chads. So if you see someone talking about Stacys and Chads and being really hateful towards people like in this way, it's a good chance that they're an incel. Yeah. So to be clear, and this is the tough part to talk about, for the incels, sex is their main focus. So whereas the original intention of Alana's website was about love and romance and relationships and also sex, incels almost exclusively just focus on this physical aspect, right? And so they think of sex as a commodity, right? It's like a product. It's something they can have or own, right? And they feel that they deserve it. And women are the enemy keeping them from having this thing that they think they deserve. It is truly disgusting and basically doesn't view women as humans at all. And so even their beliefs are also ironic, right? They can't understand, why don't women want them? At the same time, they're saying all these hateful and terrible things about women. But they blame it on women being shallow, or they think I'm not attractive enough to get a woman, so these women don't want me because I'm too ugly. So they blame the woman instead of blaming themselves and their own hateful hearts. So that's kind of the irony of that. They, for the most part, are the cause of their own problems. So they think they're involuntarily celibate, when really they're just jerks. So incels most often interact anonymously in their forums. So we talked before, right? Anonymous means we don't know who they are. They have fake names, fake profiles. But their toxic mindset will go out and affect all aspects of their lives. And some, in the most extreme cases, some incels have even become murderers or attack women in real life or are abusive out in the real world. So to give you a very sad and very famous example, Elliot Rodger, killed 6 people in 2014 in the state of California and injured another 14. So he stabbed some, he shot some, he was like shooting from his car. And he wrote this document, this paper before he did this, which some are calling an incel manifesto, right? So a manifesto is like a document stating his beliefs. And so it was this long document that he wrote, and it was full of incel talking points, right? Incel points of view. And basically was just him complaining about not being able to get sex, even though he's such a great guy. Irony. And so the last line of his writing of this manifesto said, quote, "I am the true victim in all of this. I am the good guy." So here's this person planning this murder and then goes and commits this murder. And in the end, he thinks of himself as the victim and he is the good guy. That's how entitled he feels to get these things, right? Get sex from women. I deserve this. If you don't give it to me, I will kill you. So, to make things worse, some incels are like, wow, that's crazy, that's terrible. But some look up to him as a hero and admire him for what he did. That's how deeply that hatred runs. Give me what I want or I will kill you. I was trying to look up numbers. I was trying to find incel forums and see how many members there are to kind of give you an idea of how many. But since I said they keep getting shut down, it's not so easy to find them anymore. I probably could have if I did a little more searching, but I really didn't want to spend that much time finding all of these people. But I do say when I was years ago, when they were on Reddit before the Incel forum got shut down, I went in and I read a lot of stuff in there. And there were, I think, thousands of members. It's not like just 5 guys, right? It's a lot. And I could not believe the things I was reading. It was just so hateful, so, like I said, not looking at women as humans, and even the men who are able to date women, not looking at them as humans either. And so why am I sharing these things? This is really heavy stuff. And I think the reason is because a lot of people don't want to talk about this. And if you're the type of person that wants to learn about these things, I want to be here to help you. I think it's important to raise awareness, right? To be aware, not to alarm you or to scare you, because that's not really useful, right? But I want you to be aware of things happening on the internet, where so many of us communicate right now. The internet is a very important tool for communicating, for this movement of, right, spreading information about Black Lives Matter, about sexism, bigotry, educating people to grow beyond their limited, right, small mindset. And so again, like I've been saying in my past videos, I really want my students to be able to understand all of these issues happening. Because there's a lot of hate out there, and whether you experience it yourself or not, I have, it's there. And we shouldn't give it more attention than it needs, but we can't ignore it either, because it's hurting real people. Maybe if somebody, you know, in the case of Elliot Rodger, right, who killed all those people in California, what could have happened maybe if somebody could have, I don't know, shut down the forum before he got so extreme, or raised an alarm bell before he got so extreme. I don't have these answers, but anyway, I got a little heart sent to me in the chat. Heart back to you. Thank you for watching. I hope. Yeah, so the comment says, I don't know if these comments show up after the live stream. I haven't been seeing them. So the comment says, racism is a health crisis. Yes. And there has been a lot of articles written about this topic. So I think I will share some articles. So in the description, I will share articles. links where you can donate, as I have been doing in my past videos. And if there are no more questions or comments, I'm going to wrap this one up, meaning I'm going to finish this up. Yeah, so I really hope that you can spread some love and kindness today. Show the people you care about that you care about them. If you see some online bullying, maybe step in, right? Help somebody out. If they're being bullied, say something. If you don't feel brave or safe enough to do that, that's fine too. Yeah, there's a lot of hate, and I think it's always been there. I know it's always been there, but people are becoming braver in expressing that hatred, especially like I talked about with the anonymity, right? Being anonymous. And so we have to do our part in whatever small or large way to help, because we can't let hate win. We can't let hate overtake everything. So again, I thank you for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. If you're a troll, I might reply to you just to teach my students some things. You probably didn't watch this, even if you are one, because you just probably saw my title and decided to say something mean. But if I don't think my students can learn anything from your comment, I will delete it. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful day.